Now you can go.
Okay. Well, Jonathan had asked me to talk about my experience from going from a software developer to running my own business. So I'll kind of give you guys some insight as to what a business is looking for when they're hiring for a software development position. I have seen a variety of candidates, and so some of the key points that I'll tell you guys is that when I am doing an interview, I look for the confidence level. I want to make sure that you are confident when you are talking about your projects. You're talking about the concepts that you know. So if you can prove to me that you are confident, you're passing the very first test when you come into an interview. Your passion is huge. I want to see that you are passionate about the work you're doing, the projects that you're doing, that you are committed. Obviously, the skill, the talent that you have plays a factor, but more so it's on the character. So if your character is one that will be willing to learn, that's all that matters. So we'll teach you on the job everything that you need to know. And all those memes that you see out there when the interview is like a crazy interview, but then when you actually get to the job, it's not so difficult. It's true. Like some of these interviews are way too intense. And a lot of the interviews that I do, I will be able to tell you if you're going to get hired within the first 30 minutes of the interview. And I only do one interview, no more than one. Loyalty is another thing that I look for. We want to make sure that anyone that gets hired to a company, you're going to be loyal to it. You're going to show that you're committed to helping the company succeed, because the company is only what the employees make it, right? The company is not the CEO. The company is the employees, because if all the employees just left, the CEO is nothing without its employees. So the loyalty is a huge factor when it comes to the hiring process. And this is me personally. I don't hire anyone who only has college or boot camp projects. I want to see that you have put in extra time outside of school that you've done on your own, because that shows me that you are passionate about what you're trying to achieve. And then also I look for entrepreneurial spirit during my hiring process. I don't want, I mean, a lot of the coders are used to just kind of sitting in the back, kind of doing the thing and then make pretty stuff. But I want to bring on employees who are entrepreneurial. They don't just sit behind the desk. They are providing value through viable solutions during the inception of the project, not just during the coding process. We want to make sure that you are helping build the project from the beginning to the end. This way, it actually makes you feel more involved in that it's your project. And it really helps you kind of cling to the project and make it your own. And that's kind of what I've learned based off of my previous jobs, is that if I didn't put my all into it, if I didn't start it from the beginning and see it to the end, I wasn't as committed because I didn't know the potential of the project. I don't know how this works, but is there any questions so far? We're all good?
Yeah, it's up to you, man. If you want people to ask questions throughout, we can do it like that.
Yeah.
Or I didn't know if you had like a big, some people come in with a presentation. Some people are just kind of like chat and chill kind of thing where we can just kind of, I just made that up. I'm coining that. That is my phrase. Anyway,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
people can ask questions and stuff. So whatever you want to do.
I think it'd be more beneficial if it was like more like a conversation, a chat this way. I'm not just lecturing. I want to see what everyone's opinions are about what I say so far. Chat and chill. I like that.
Yeah, I think I can lob a couple questions your way to get some good like nuggets. And I
Mhm.
would say you being a CEO and as well as the preference of previously being a software developer, what
Mhm.
do you think is the value add that a software developer should or could bring to a position that would make them really stand out as a star candidate?
That is the biggest thing for me, is the commitment that you bring to the company. Um, if you're a person that is working, let's say like 5 hours a day, not working, like 8 hours, just 5 hours, but those 5 hours you are fully committed and you're pumping out amazing things. That's what I look for. Like I don't care if you're in the office for 8 hours or if you're in the office for 5 hours. I look for the quality that you provide to the company and to the projects that you're working on. And I know a lot of the companies don't agree with that. A lot of the companies are more old school, and they want to just be like, I want you in your seat from 9 to 5, just you doing your work. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the work that's being provided is quality work. And that's why I allow like flexible hours. We don't only do 9 to 5. We do 10 to 6, 10:30 to 6:30. Just depends on your work schedule. I don't want to force you to wake up at 8 a.m. and code when your brain's not up yet, basically. So that's the biggest thing, pumping out quality.
So would it be safe to say in this scenario that you're looking more for problem solvers as opposed to syntax memorizers?
Exactly, yeah. Being a syntax memorizer doesn't really do anything for you or the company. Um, Syntax is the only difference between a language. So that's the easy part. Being able to solve problems through critical thinking is where your skill and your value comes to a company. And then one of the things I had in here is kind of harsh, but like, you cannot depend on school. You cannot use school as an excuse to get a job anymore. It's all about experience. I've hired so many people who do not have college degrees, who do not have boot camp experience, but what they do have is they have been able to teach themselves, and they've been doing it for 10 years, but no one's been willing to give them a chance because they haven't had a degree, or if they haven't gone through the traditional college. That's that's not how it should be. um, it should be all about your experience. And I remember when I got my first job, uh, they didn't ask me a single thing about my college degree, my GPA.
Big boy, go get in bed, please.
They only I had only showed them my portfolio of games I had created back in the day. So it was a very chill interview. It was actually a barbecue, and all I did was I pulled out my phone, I showed them the 3 or 4 games that I had made, and I didn't say a single thing about school. And that's how I landed my first job. And I was very appreciative of that.
I have another good question, I think.
Mhm.
So, since we're on the subject of problem solving and some of the projects that you've shown, can you give some ideas or examples of problems that you've solved back in your days as a software developer and maybe how they may differ now that you're in a position of CEO?
So when I was when I was working for someone else, I had this project, which was it was actually for the creator of laser tag. He had the first patent, and so I was in charge of creating a phone version of laser tag. It was basically using your phone and playing laser tag with someone else who had their phone. And so that was pretty difficult. And the thing that I learned there was being able to communicate with the clients directly. Like, I was in charge of talking to the client, leading the project. And so that was very, very critical to my career, being able to talk to clients. I know when developers first get their job, they're like, I mean, let's face it, like, programmers aren't very social. the key is to be social. You know, you have to kind of leave your bubble and go out there and talk, because talking and networking is going to get you those opportunities. And if I wasn't networking with people back in the day, I wouldn't be where I am, because this all happened because of networking opportunities.
Another question I have is, and I love asking developers this, and of course, CEO, this may be completely different than, traditional ones I've heard in the past, but what's your I broke prod moment? I know you had to have a moment where you broke production at one point or another. What was your moment, or whatever happened in your history where you may have broken production by accident and had to do a fix?
So I personally never broken production, because we have several different checks that go through before it hits production. Like, there is only one person or a company that is in charge of pushing to production. And so if production ever failed, we would know exactly who to contact and who would get it fixed. Having a separation of environments is huge. Like, please don't code on production. I think it was who was it that had the intern that pushed it out to production? Was that HBO? Can't remember.
Oh, HBO Max, I think it was.
Yes, yeah, they had an intern that pushed out code to production on accident. I don't know if it was a marketing scheme, honestly, or if it was actually an intern. But yeah, we make sure that doesn't happen here. We're working on projects related to the cannabis industry, and it would kill us if we ever pushed bad code in production.
Got it. Those are some of the questions I had. Maybe somebody else has a question like me I want to ask.
I did want to say that in anything you do, the three keys that I did learn in my journey was, when I first started, I was doing game development. I was working day and night on this. At the time I had a job at Target. I was working at Target, and afterwards I'd come home and I'd just do game development. I would be doing that from like 7 p.m. until like 1 a.m. And that was motivation, right? That the reason I was doing that was because I was super motivated. I really wanted to release my own game. I wanted Next Rage to have a portfolio. So that motivation kept me going. And then over time, that motivation turned into discipline. And motivation is what gets you started, but discipline is what's going to keep you going. It makes it so that you are doing things on time. You're training your body to, do what it takes to get things done. And then after you've been doing it for so long, it just becomes a habit. And then at that point, consistency is the key. It goes from motivation to discipline to consistency. And consistency is very important in anything you do. Make sure anything you do is a habit. You're not doing it just because you have to do it, but because you want to do it and you want to make a difference. Just be consistent in everything. I can't say that enough. I preach that to all my employees here, is make sure your code is consistent. The example I give is JavaScript, right? There's no consistency of JavaScript. You can assign a string to a Boolean and vice versa, and it's a hot mess. But to solve that consistency issue, we implement TypeScript. And so TypeScript makes it to where you are forcing a rule set on your code. So like if you're working in Node, please use TypeScript, because that will ensure that any code that goes into production works. Like, write your unit test, use TypeScript, make sure you have your linting correct, because we focus a lot on the linting, making sure the format for every programmer matches everyone else. Because if one programmer has their own way of doing it and the other programmer has another way of doing it, not only does that lead to merge conflicts, that leads to different code styles. In a small team, it may be fine, but when you're working with 20 to 30 people on a team, that becomes a huge issue.
There's a really awesome question submitted by Robin over here. You mentioned that loyalty is important, but how is it demonstrated during the interview process?
So when I interview, when you can tell a lot by the facial expressions, you can tell a lot by their voice if they are genuinely trying to help your company succeed. I have gotten several employees here that when they first came to me in an interview, they were really preaching that they want to help NextRage succeed. They really want to see the future. They want to grow with NextRage. There's a few keywords that I look for during an interview that really shows me that this is going to be a loyal employee in the future. I hope that answers the question.
So I'll ask you one of the questions that I always ask in an interview,
Mhm.
and that's when you're hiring a software developer, what does success look like for you in that position 6 months down the line?
Pull requests. I want to see your pull requests getting merged in, making sure that you are able to learn the existing platform and be able to contribute valuable code to it. So 6 months down the line, I want to see that you have gotten, 3 or 4 PRs published every month. Obviously depending on the project you're working on, but that's what I look for. Is I want to see your PRs get merged in. I want to make sure that your PRs were successful. There was no issues in the staging environment. That really helps me gauge kind of how you're progressing. I also like to do quarterly I do a first month kind of get together, kind of see how you're progressing. Is there any questions? How can I help you? And then every quarter we do another kind of sit down to to see if you're having any difficulties. Again, how can I help you? How can I help you meet your goals? Not only professionally, but personally. So it really helps build that relationship, and helps me understand where you are within the company.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So, they say sky's the limit for most, but I'm curious, for you, how far you see or foresee NextRage growing as a company, or how much do you actually want it to grow?
I have some big plans that I've been wanting to reach. I mean, right now, so I started doing NextRage full time in 2017. We grew from in 2017 to 2019 from just me to 8 employees. So that was an exponential growth for us. And then from 2019 till now, we've gone from 8 employees to 21 employees. So it's just been like an exponential growth for us. In the future, I want us to be more involved with the community. I want us to work with, for example, Jonathan at Free Code Camp. If there's anything I could do to help you guys, I would love to contribute somehow. I would love to. There's a huge issue with boot camps. My personal opinion is what I've seen is boot camps are teaching you at their pace, but not your pace. So they teach you, they try to get you out the door. They want to get you a job so then they can make their money. I think that's a huge issue because they're just pushing out the door. They're trying to get their money back. And so they may be ready, but you may not be ready just yet, because you're learning all this in like a month, 3 months, 6 months, but that may not be the pace that you want to go at. And so if I can somehow have NextRage plug into boot camps to where maybe after you're done with the boot camp, you come to NextRage and you work as an intern here, so that you actually get real world experience, like how different is school than the work environment. That's kind of my goals. I also kind of want to build a academy portion where we bring in students who want to learn programming. So we can offer teaching and lessons from actual programmers who work at NextRage. So those are my long-term goals. I don't know just when I'm going to execute on those, but hoping, maybe mid 2023. And then we just got back into game development, which was my passion. Like we've been working on B2B applications for the past 4 or 5 years. And I love doing that because obviously it makes us money, but my passion is game development. Like I would do game development over mobile apps or websites any day. And so we have finally started building our game development department up, and we're hopefully going to release our game in mid-March, probably around springtime. So I'll keep you guys updated. It's a puzzle game.
So with NextRage being a local company that obviously dabbles in tech, what are like some of the long-term plans that you have to grow the business, expand the business, and possibly make like a stronger foothold for yourself in the Dallas community?
I think that goes back to kind of in being involved with the community. The more community I'm involved with, the more brand awareness that builds. We've been increasing our sales team. That will help us grow our company. Our sales team right now is doing a great job. Even towards the end of the year, when budgets are pretty much exhausted, we're still bringing in projects, which is amazing. But yeah, I really want to stay involved in the community. I think brand awareness is our biggest thing. We obviously aren't as big as these like other software companies, for example, like Dialexa, Bottle Rocket. My goal is to be at that level eventually. Any other questions? Spicy question. While they type their question, I will mention again that I know life gets busy, but you really have to try and put time into it, learning to code, especially for anyone trying to get into the industry. Putting that time in there is the more time you put in, the more you're gonna get out of it. Like, for example, after my full-time job, I was working after hours to get myself where I wanted to be in life. So wherever your goal is, whatever you consider success, please make sure you put time into it, even if it is after hours. I know family hits hard and it gets tough, but you just have to find time to do it. Hey, James, haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Definitely, I'd have to say it's probably the best place I've ever worked at. So
Appreciate it. How's your gig going?
that's going. It's has its ups and downs, but making quite a bit. So yeah, it's making up for that. And then probably in a year or so, I'll move into Microsoft is what I'm thinking.
Oh, awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Microsoft, I've always wanted to work in Microsoft's game studios. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, they have their hands in a lot of stuff that honestly a huge fan of. So that's
Awesome.
what I'm thinking.
Really happy for you.
Thanks.
As a CEO, what things have you learned that you think other CEOs are doing wrong? The biggest thing other CEOs are doing wrong that I've witnessed myself is they have no empathy for their employees. I've noticed that employees are not just employees, right? They're humans. Everyone's a human, and there's a lot of bosses out there who are just bosses, right? They just want to see you working, pumping out code. It doesn't matter. They don't care about what's happening, in your personal life. They don't care what goals you have. All they care about is you working and providing value to the company. But that's not always the case. Something always comes up, right? Like something will happen, you know, someone in the family, you know, passes away, your car just dies. A lot of people are not empathetic towards that, and that's what I've noticed. Like, the more empathy you could provide to your teammates, the more they will like you as a not a boss, but more as a leader. Because I come from a software background, I don't just sit in a desk and just am the boss, right? I am walking around, and as James knows, I was always walking around making sure everyone was doing okay, making sure that everyone was, no one was stuck, making sure that everyone was okay with their task and not just, you know, super stressed out. And I know at the time that James, you were here, we hadn't finished our product yet, so things were a little stressful, and I tried to make sure I could do everything possible to make everyone's life not as stressful.
Yeah, you were doing great, in my opinion.
Yeah. And that's something that bosses don't understand.
Yeah, I wish I could take you and the whole team where I'm at right now.
Yeah, so one of the questions or concerns is, has the issue of burnout, perhaps project misquoted, misestimated, come up, and how has that been approached? So we work with a lot of startup companies, and as James, you've known that startup companies, they do not have any concept of time or scope. Things change consistently, and we try to manage that as best we can. Of course, there's maybe once or twice a year where we work late, but I try to minimize that as much as possible. Thankfully, this whole year, we have not had any crunch time or anything that has caused us to stay like late at work. So
Yeah, I've never had to work late. That's been awesome.
yeah, and that, in my opinion, has already been better than what we were doing last year. So my goal is to always become better every single year. Yeah, we have resolved that a lot.
I have another question for you.
Mhm.
Being someone that is self-taught and still kind of new to the realm, so to speak, just in the coding aspect of it, what do you look for from somebody who is so new? Are you looking for specific languages to hire, or are you any certain concepts or anything like that?
Me personally, we have been working with the MERN stack, so we look for, you know, basically JavaScript, and like I said before, not just JavaScript. We look for TypeScript on top of that, because we want to make sure that there's rules set for code that you're pushing into production. Yeah. Does that kind of answer question? Like, so we do mostly focus on JavaScript. We were in .NET, and the current project we're working on is still kind of in .NET, but we're switching over all our future projects to basically Node.js. And I still get a lot of recruiters reaching out to me because they think I'm looking for like actual jobs, and recruiters are very ignorant. Uh, they don't care about what your LinkedIn profile says. They'll reach out shamelessly. But what I have seen is 90% of those recruitment opportunities are all related to React and JavaScript. Sometimes people will reach out to me and say that they are looking for Python experience, but most of it is in JavaScript. So that is the best language to start with. I don't agree with schools starting you off with C++ or even C, because that'll teach you theory, but that's not what's gonna get the job done in an actual workplace.
Yeah. I remember what my college experience was like, and it didn't do a very good job at preparing me at all for
Mhm.
actual work-related projects. I had to go and take quite a bit of time to learn that on my own.
Yeah. Yeah. What made you switch from .NET to Node? The only thing that really convinced me to switch from .NET to Node is the fact that there is more access to developers. There are a lot more developers that know JavaScript than .NET. And we would like to keep our front end and back end consistent. So now we are developing our front ends all in React, we would like to use our back end using JavaScript and TypeScript as well.
Yeah, in .NET, I actually do it as well. It's its own ecosystem. If you're doing .NET, it pretty much doesn't have room for you to keep up with anything else outside of it. So I've done Node.js. It's very fast. It's very clean. It's very
Yeah.
easy. And JavaScript, again, that's the de facto language for the internet. So the only thing I would say with it is if you ever find yourself on a project doing a very large calculated, like with really big numbers,
Mhm.
then that's when you would want to go with something probably like .NET. But other
Yeah.
than that, I can't think of a use case.
We still use Azure on our backend and databases. We haven't really used AWS. It's more because I don't have any experience with AWS, and if someone ever comes to me, I wouldn't be able to help them. And I don't know if a lot of the team members here do have AWS experience, so we've always just stuck with Azure. Azure has, in my opinion, one of the better user experiences. I tried using AWS and I couldn't really navigate in the portal.
They renamed everything. Like
They
literally
renamed
everything.
Yeah. So I personally can't do it. What advice can you give to a bootcamp student who are in the market for their first dev job? Do you consider yourself being able to code on your own? Could you take a project from start to end without the help of someone from boot camp or anybody else? If you can create a project and finish it all on your own, then I would say you are ready to get your first job. Because one of the first things that you'll have to do is either jump onto an existing project, or they're going to have you start fresh from a brand new project. And if they have you start from a brand new project and you've never done that before, it can be a little bit scary and intimidating.
And I guess maybe even try to be comfortable with estimates as well, which does take time to develop that skill.
Yeah, and then another question I see is, as a new self-taught developer, didn't get a great first job, how should they stay in trying before a new role without throwing a honestly, it all depends on the leadership role. If the leadership is not great, then you shouldn't stick around. You shouldn't have to deal with that. If you're being treated like crap, then there's no point. Then you may as well start looking for another job. And the job market is really hot right now. So please don't make yourself suffer at a place you don't want to be at. There's a lot of great companies hiring right now. And if you ever need any help, just message me on LinkedIn and I will connect you with hundreds of recruiters that reach out to me. And I would love to help in any way I can. How is the interview process at your company? I will do a phone call. If I don't hear the right keywords, the right, if you tell me that the only projects that you have are school related projects or bootcamp projects, then I can easily tell you over the phone that we won't be moving forward. But if you can tell me that, hey, I've done this project, here's my GitHub, I did this project, so-and-so, I worked on this portion of the project, this was outside of my boot camp in school, then we bring you in for a face-to-face interview. And like I was mentioned earlier, I asked those several key points that I was looking for, and that's it. Like, if you pass that first interview, I'm not going to make you come in for a second, third, fourth, or fifth interview. Open source contributors are amazing. I love that. That's because that not only does that show me that you are working outside of work or school, but that shows me that you are passionate about what you're doing, because you're willing to make a difference in using through open source repositories. So keep doing that, and keep building your GitHub, because that's what a lot of companies are looking for. The very first thing they'll ask you for is your GitHub account. Did I miss anything? Most colleges are learning Java. Yeah, I think that's true. When I was going to UTD, I had the option to choose C++ or Java. Ideally, I would like to choose neither of those. But if I had to choose one, I had chosen C++. But I can't tell you how many companies are using Java. I don't get any recruiters now that are asking me for Java experience. So it would be beneficial for yourself to learn languages outside of Java, or any language that you're just learning at school. And I can promise you, JavaScript, React, React Native, Python are probably the most used languages right now. Yeah. If anyone just wants to come by and chat, I'm always willing to take 30 minutes out during lunchtime to educate anyone that's kind of needing advice on how to get a job, or just advice in general. You can always hit me up on LinkedIn. I usually reply really fast. I think Jonathan and I literally respond to each other in like 2 seconds. Yeah. Every financial institution I've talked to is using Angular, Java. Yeah, I think the larger corporate companies are using like C++, C#, Java, all those high-level programming languages. I don't like working with corporate companies. I don't really support corporate companies. The hierarchy at a corporate company is, your boss could be the crappiest boss ever, and you could be the most amazing employee ever, but you know what's going to happen? Your boss is going to get promoted before you get promoted, and you'll always be climbing that ladder and always be chasing your boss. Non-corporate companies like NextRage, what I try to achieve here is something that's the complete opposite. You could have your manager, like I said, be a crappy manager, or you could be the most amazing coder ever. You will get promoted because based on your value, not based on some corporate structure. So there is a lot of growth opportunities here, and that's what I like to keep here. I like to have a very Google-esque vibe, I would like to say.
You mentioned the side projects,
Mhm.
and is there a certain amount of side projects that like you're interested in seeing, and like how big or complex do they need to be?
Well, obviously they can't be super simple. I don't want to just see a single page where you're just showing some UI. I would like for it to have some sort of use case. And it doesn't have to be like 100 projects. It could be like, 3 or 4 projects, but long as each project has is valuable, basically. having projects just to show a picture or show me that you can change the state in React is not really going to cut it. Yeah, if there's no other questions or anyone just wants to say anything.
Yeah, hey, we appreciate you, Fraz.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking time literally away from what you're doing right now to come talk to us.
Yeah, no
We
worries.
appreciate it.
Yeah, like I said, if
Um,
you guys have any further questions, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm always online.
This is true. Cool. All right, man. Well, hey, we appreciate it.
No
And
problem.
we're just gonna hang around for a few minutes, and if people want to talk or ask questions or whatever,
Sure.
so you're free to go if you need to get back to your stuff, Fraz.
Yeah, I have a few people waiting outside my door right now, so but I appreciate it. It was fun. I hope I was valuable. And I will look forward to seeing you guys in person someday. Take
Sweet.
care.
Thanks, man.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Fraz.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Hey, Scott, do you think you could provide an update on our cohorts? Maybe, maybe not. All right, cool. So yeah, I usually do this at the beginning of the thanks for sharing, Cassandra. I usually do this at the beginning of the meetups, but if anybody has a job like opening you know of that you want to share, or if you are looking for a job, feel free to introduce yourself and or introduce the job that y'all have open at your company. Now's a good time to do that for a few minutes. You can just unmute and introduce yourself.